All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the FloorSeats podcast, episode 19. Um, we took a small break last week. Niggas were extremely tired.
We were tapped.
Yeah, we needed a break. So we took a brief break, and we are back for more of the usual. I got my man Zan with the Lean Zans here with me.
Yo, yo, yo. What it do, everybody?
How you feeling this week, man?
Just like you said, man, better than last week because we were tapped. Yo, me and Tax here helped a friend of ours move his apartment to another apartment down the street. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it took like what, 12 hours? I don't know, 10.
Yeah, like niggas were running late. The U-Haul is late. Like
U-Haul's always late,
bro. And fam had a lot of stuff for his
for a two-person apartment.
He had a studio, bro. Mad stuff.
Hella stuff.
They needed the extra space, yeah.
It was a good move to him. You know, shout out to our man's Byron the poet. But yo, the amount of things you could move out of one apartment, yo, like just like Tax said, shit was a lot. We were drained. Facts. Absolutely drained. So real rap, moral of the story, if you gotta move, period, it doesn't matter what, it's gonna take the whole day. I think that was more of the story. If you're moving apartment, house, closet, it doesn't matter. Plan your whole day out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like when I get ready to move, honestly, everything in my room, I should be able to get it on like one trip, honestly. But
yo, we said the same thing.
Nah,
we know what happened.
Nah, I knew for a fact we weren't getting that on one truck. I knew off rip. I was like, this is not going on one trip. I'll keep it a bean. And then I was like, I hope my man got a new bed frame because that was not getting out of his crib.
Yo, that bed frame, once we did not have the screws, for those of you who don't know, when Brandon, our friend of ours, one of the last few things we had to move out of his apartment was the bed. We left the bed last. We moved the bed and box spring out. Cool. The bed frame, different story. We couldn't unhook it. We didn't have the tools to take it apart, and it was not fitting in no elevator, and definitely was not fitting in that stairway.
Oh, facts. It was not. It was a wrap.
It was not. So we just broke it apart. We said we rest in peace. We poured out some Henny for it, and we just broke that bitch apart. And threw it away in the fucking refuse room, as they call it, because that shit refused to go on the elevator. I
was like, yeah. I told Chef, like, they ain't making it out of this building. You got to break that shit. Told him straight up. Nobody believed me. I was like, that shit ain't making it, big dog.
Yo, all puns aside, yeah, that shit was not coming out of that building. But for those who missed us, we back. Don't worry. Whenever we leave like that, we'll definitely let y'all know. It's not going to be like those trips to the convenience store for the pack of cigarettes. It won't be anything like that. Don't want y'all to have abandonment issues.
Yeah, niggas
not so early.
Niggas just beat. That's it. But we back. So before we get started with everything, I wanted to give a rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Boseman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to give a rest in peace to him. Yeah, I've heard people say Boseman. I don't know. but I definitely wanted to give a rest in peace to him. Especially like we like a lot of information about him came out after his death, like especially like how he got into acting, that kind of stuff. And the thing I really appreciated is that like he really kind of took everything in stride. Like you know, he knew something was wrong, but he wasn't necessarily like trying to broadcast it and, you know, get sympathy and stuff like that. He's just like, look, I'm dealing with this, and like, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. Like, I think he knew at a
True.
certain point that, you know, he wasn't going to make it, but, you know, just like the strength it took to just like, you know, keep that internal. You know, I'm sure definitely his family and everything knew, but, you know, to be kind of say like, I don't want to say suffer in silence, but just be like, you know what, this is something that we're going to deal with internally. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. And, you know, his family's handling it well, all things considered. Um, and his story is really inspiring, man. Like if you look into it, like the thing with All My Children, he's just like, yo, I don't want to play a stereotypical character. So he gave it the best performance he could, and then like they cut him, and he's like, perfect, because I didn't want to do this shit anyway. You know what I mean? Um, he died at age 42 on Jackie Robinson Day, which is crazy because Jackie Robinson's number was 42. And he played Jackie
Um,
Robinson.
which he did, yeah, which he did. Like with the universe works in very mysterious and strange ways. Um, I know that Jackie Robinson, the number 42, um, symbolic at the very least, you know. Uh, Dang, where do you even start with this one? Because I mean, I think as we all know, like Black Panther was the big role that he kind of buried into our hearts with, especially for the culture, especially for Black people, African American, whoever whatever you want to call yourself, people of who are full of melanin. When we saw that movie, there is a sense of pride, a sense of joy, just to see, even though it was fiction, just a representation of Black royalty on screen, especially a movie that was centered around the sense of Black royalty, and he personified that really well, to the fact that he gave people hope to one day become someone similar to the stature of like T'Challa, similar to the you know inspirational impact as he was for his other characters, as Jackie Robinson. Which I'll say this now, I can't remember the name because I starred in the movie, in the Five Bloods of his character in that movie. I think just overall, you got to see, just looking at each of Chadwick's characters, they all played a role in some way or some form, that was to promote what it means to be a black man, a Black person, um, in this day, in this world. And he chose roles that either center around defining moments, or just roles that just demanded his characters to overcome just oppression or difficulty, which means a lot, because that's literally what the lives, like 80% of what Black people go through on a daily basis is oppression, is dealing with that shit, you know?
Yeah,
And he made it his job to play those roles. Mind you, he could play the other roles that could have probably paid more or just in more abundance, but he chose with the time he had um, on this earth left, whatever time he was told when he was diagnosed with colon cancer at like stage 3, stage 4, to really just spend his last moments on earth, spreading positivity to
yeah, and
those that look like him.
yeah, and I truly appreciate that, especially as a man that's, you know, lightly melanated, um, because,
Yeah, like dash and melon.
because you know, he really played characters that exemplified excellence. You know what I mean, and grace, and for him to go out that way, just it wasn't him. Like he didn't have to. act like this is who he was to play these characters. These characters fit who he was. You know what I mean? Like he when he played Jackie Robinson, when he played T'Challa, he did like two other ones. Like they're on the tip of my brain, and I just don't remember. I know he did another doc. I felt like it was damn. I gotta look it up. I know he played a singer in one of the things, but damn, this is gonna kill me.
Oh, uh, uh, James Brown.
Yeah, James Brown.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Oh, like what?
Yeah, he did James Brown. He did Jackie Robinson, Black Panther, of course. I didn't see the Five Bloods yet, but you know, Thurgood Marshall.
Oh, what? Damn. Dog, I mean, as you can see, y'all, the list goes on and on. Like this just goes to show, no matter what complications you may face in life, whatever life may throw at you. And I really don't want to sound like a fortune cookie, but I think he really stood to personify the example that no matter what life threw at you, you have to be the one to decide what what you will do with your time on this planet, and what do you want that time to represent? What do you want that time to stand for? What do you want to benefit? What do you want to give back to the world with that time? And for him to even be in a position not many of us are in, to be, a Hollywood actor, to be able to live in, to have access to these type of roles, to be in this type of, which is, just like what, 5%, just to be in that position, and yet to know and to dedicate your work to something that's bigger than me, something that's will outlive me.
Yeah, and I
What
think
what
like
she achieved. I mean, man, it's hard to say because it's so recent, and like with the media, they're throwing it at you all the time, and it just sometimes it's kind of like how someone that young, um, was could have left this world, but you
yeah,
know,
and I
things
think
die
just
every day.
and I think just to wrap it up too, it's like he was doing this stuff, and then when he knew that his time was coming, most people, you know, would look down on themselves and maybe like kind of get into a depression about it. And, the way it showed that he kind of carried it was like, all right, well, like, this is all the more reason I need to continue doing what I'm doing before I go. And, that's real powerful because again, like, you've seen a lot of like games and movies where somebody will be like, critically hurt and they're going to die, but they're like, yo, I need to finish my mission. And I felt like that's kind of how he was. It's like, look, I gotta, my mission is to, inspire people, to show, a different side of Black America and, put my best foot forward, that kind of stuff. And, you know, even on with him knowing that his days were limited, he's just like, look, I'm going to push through and, complete my mission. And I appreciate what he's done, gone at a very young age for sure, but surely not forgotten. And yeah, man, rest in peace to him.
Yeah. And I do wanna wrap it up and just saying, for those who haven't, during the time of his passing, I was actually able to see his address. I guess he was the commencement speaker Howard, uh, for Howard's graduating class. I was it 2018. That's just a wild guess. It could have even been before that. But just look it up, y'all. If just literally just look up Chadwick Howard commencement speaker, and just the words that he said, just about going through life and just achieving what you set out for yourself. you know, and I think it's just what you hear from a lot of just commencement speakers, but I guess it was just the weight of his words after the fact. It was just like he was talking about things that we had no idea what he was talking about. Like he was then it to me it was just like he was referring to his illness even then. Um but we as a people just didn't know.
Yeah.
It was just kept out of the public eye. So you really can't judge someone for when you don't know what's going on in their lives. And especially even when you do got a lot going on, you know, sometimes you got to look within yourself to kind of find that shoot. I mean, what you just a Disney up these last words, you know, find the superhero in you, find the Black Panther in you. If you're not black, it's okay.
Find the White Panther or the
Find
Pink
the White
Panther.
Panther. Find the biracial Panther in
Pink
you.
Panther.
Pink Panther. If that works too. You know. Yeah, just kind of find that within you to fight for the changes you want to see around you in your life, because that's what he did, despite being diagnosed with cancer. Yeah, because I don't know about you, bro, but I don't know what you'll catch me doing uh, if I had stage 4 cancer. And I probably wouldn't say acting and working my ass off doing movies having stage 4 cancer. Like, bro, he went above and beyond, yo. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman.
Osmond.
Bosman.
Rest in peace, fam. We appreciate your
Peace,
contributions. But let's move a little forward a bit. So our good friend at the Seahawks issued an apology.
Yep. Just so y'all can have a. This was funny when I read this. I couldn't help but laugh because, well, first off, let's give a little context for y'all who may not know what we're talking about.
What was it, like 2 episodes ago?
2 episodes ago. I know. I always make it sound like this shit be happening straight like years ago, like back in the beginning of time. But legit 2 episodes ago, we mentioned the Seahawks rookie, who had his contract. I guess his contract / ripped up, whatever you want to call it. That shit was thrown out the window, just for the fact that he tried to sneak in, whether it was a woman disguised as a Seahawk player into the hotel room, the team hotel room. Now he was cut from the team, contract thrown out the door. He then issues an apology on IG, goes into detail, just saying, you know, I let my team down. I let like the coaches down. I let everybody down. It was foolish of me. Yada yada yada. I learned my mistakes, and you know, I appreciate everyone who still supports me and you know still believes in me and what I'll do. He says, you know, yeah. He says, you know, I'm sorry. Wherever I go next, hopefully I'll do better.
Damn. I would have just been like, oh, what you mean I can't have women in here? For real? I was like, oh, my fault. No, I didn't even know I couldn't bring her here.
Like I'm trying to say, like I'm even thinking to myself, I'm just like, all right, what was he really saying? Was he sorry? Was he sorry, or was he sorry that he got caught?
He's sorry that he got caught. Let's
Damn.
keep it a beam, bro. If he'd have been like, yo, oops, my bad, my fault, big dog. Like, ain't even nothing serious, bro. I'll tell her to leave. like,
Oh man.
but when he got cut, then he's like, all right, let me put out this whole like normal apology and stuff like that. That sounds like I care, but honestly, like, I don't think he learned his lesson like that. Like, he'll still be doing stuff like that. It's just like he ain't trying to get caught. Because the thing is, too, I guarantee he's not the only player to do that. He's just the only dumbass to get caught.
Yo, man, like,
And he's not that valuable to the team where they would like sweep that under the rug or something like that. You know what I mean?
right? He was a rookie,
Like
and
he like Russell Westbrook trying to sneak in a chick, even though he's a married man. Like something like that happened, they would have
I
like
know
gave my man a slap on the wrist. But they were like, "Yo, we got a great defense anyway. Like we don't even need you. Keep it real."
Cam Newton. It wasn't Cam Newton out here sneaking broads into the Patriots hotel
All right, that's
team
different.
hotel.
I
See,
think Belichick might actually cut him though. Belichick, because Belichick
true.
doesn't believe in stars; he believes in his system. So he's like, "All right, you want to act up? Cool. Like, let me pull out this like, let me dust off this backup QB real quick. We get a
Can
Lysol
you
wipe and clean them
imagine
off,
you
and then
Lysol wipe duster, feather duster off this rookie, blow the dust off polish his helmet real quick.
yeah,
Like, good as new.
he's like, all right, Stidham, clean up. It's time for you to go. But
But yeah,
Seahawks, though, you know, that player in particular is not that impactful yet to where they'd be like, all right, we got to chill out. Like, imagine if that's like Zeke Elliott and the Cowboys. First of all, this would never get out. They're not trying to cut him. They spent too much money on him. They'd be like, yo, stop being a fucking idiot.
Nah. It's not hitting
Let's
any
play.
news net. Like if it did hit media headlines, that title would have been all types of different.
Yeah.
Like Stephen A. Smith would have, because even Stephen A. Smith spoke on the rookie. He spoke on the Seahawks rookie, but best believe, like you said, if it was a player that mattered, it sounds fucked up, but it was a player that mattered, or like a star player who signed like extreme example, but like Mahomes signed like a $500 million contract for like 10 years.
You would never hear about it.
You would never hear about it. In which we wouldn't, because I guess recently he also recently got engaged to like his girlfriend, Mahomes. So shout out to Mahomes.
Yeah, what a perfect time. She's like, "Oh yeah, half a mil. You partly own the Royals." She's like,
Oh
"Yeah."
yeah.
She's
Oh
busting
yeah.
it.
Where the ring at?
Um,
Shout out to Mahomes. But
yeah,
exactly.
this isn't a shot to the player by any means, but I'm like, this is the same thing like you deal with at work and stuff like that. It's like, all right, well, like say like, oh, no cell phones, you know, you can't use your cell phone around work and sensitive information or whatever, and you get in trouble because you pulled you out, you know, because your phone's blowing up or something. And then there's the dude that's been there long enough and is cool with everybody that's just walking through the hall on his phone and stuff like that.
Lily
Like,
phone out,
he don't get in trouble.
AirPods in.
Yeah, nigga, fucking on IG Live, like, yo, see where I'm working? Like, but he doesn't get in trouble because he has the tenure and other stuff like that. Like,
Pulling his phone up.
Like, you haven't earned that privilege yet to
That tenure.
Yeah, you haven't earned the ability to fuck up yet.
That takes time.
Yeah, that's just what it is. It's like even in football, like, well, even in basketball, like niggas is like, yo, like when AI wasn't even going to practice but still starting, it's like, bro, you're not proven yet. AI can do that. He shouldn't, but he can.
Yeah, it's wrong. But again, who are we talking about again? Oh, right, Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
like you know,
you don't have that privilege yet, big dog. Like, hopefully,
no disrespect.
Like, you know, another system will pick him up and stuff like that. Like, because again, like, you know, my man trained his whole life for this opportunity. So hopefully another team and system picks him up, and you know he really does learn from it. Cause I'm like, my nigga, like, you were not a key player to be doing some nut shit like that.
Real rap, and you know, just like, bro, don't forget the numbers, the statistics. Ooh, I hit that word right the first time. Statistics. Yeah, don't forget the stats that go into rookies making the league, getting drafted, bro. Like you are in a position that
you were an undrafted free agent too. You know what I mean? So it's like you got, you know what I mean, a second chance because like you weren't
Kill to be in
drafted
this position.
on draft day. So it was like, all right, cool. You still got drafted outside of draft day. So I'm like, bro, you don't know which. Yeah, hopefully you get something else, man.
You're excited. I get that. I would be too. I'm not even gonna try to sit here. I wouldn't be all like be Drake and be like Drake, be like happy to be here, that type of energy, and just try to fucking like call up all type of call girls up to the room, order up mad bottles. Like
I
this
would
is me
listen
after the draft.
right
No, this is me
now.
before the draft.
So that
Wait
that
till
stuff is
after the
cool.
draft.
It's normally cool, I guess, but because like Corona, like yo, fam, you
Yeah,
gotta chill. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, and I get it. Like Drake is the king of being happy to be alive, but like every picture you see that man in, like around a sports player, man, that nigga's just happy, happiest man
Straight,
alive.
straight
Um,
glee.
but
Nothing but glee on that man's face.
but yeah, you gotta chill out, bro.
Woo. Real rap.
So best of luck to him.
Yep. Kema Sivrand. So we'll see where. Yeah, we'll see where we'll see where homie goes to next.
Yeah.
But damn. Speaking of, but actually, you actually brought up a good point when you brought up the NBA. Yo. So with just transitioning, since mentioning the NBA, the NBA recently has been going through a wave of some boycotts, starting with the Milwaukee Bucks boycotting their game. Recently, I would say, when was it? It was not last Wednesday. Was it last Wednesday or the Wednesday before? Damn,
I think it was or the Wednesday before.
Yeah, Wednesday before. But just to bring in the context for y'all, the game was canceled, or the Bucks refused to play, which was in part to protest for the recent shooting of Jacob Blake, who was shot in the back 7 times by police on Sunday. So it would have been the Wednesday before. So this would have been the Sunday before. So that Sunday before, he was shot 7 times in the back by police in front of his children as he was trying to break up a confrontation between 2 individuals. From what I heard, were 2 white women. That was happening in front of him, and he had no part or had no relation to these 2 women. He was just trying to break up the fight. And because of that, after he parted ways, he did his job or did what he set out to do. As he was getting back in the car, he was shot 7 times, and he is now paralyzed from the waist down. That was last reported after he was taken to the hospital. So 1, fortunate, glad that he's alive. 2, absolutely, this is 1, his life was preserved. 2, especially after getting shot 7 times. 2, we're not even going to get into the fact who's in the wrong here. I think that's obvious. If that's not obvious to you, sorry, we can't help you. But to bring it all back, the Bucks were the first. It looks like the Bucks were the first to boycott, which then led to teams, the LA teams meeting, the Lakers and the Clippers, who met to discuss actually boycotting the rest of the season in protest for Jacob Blake. Now, where do you want to begin in unpacking this?
Well, let's start with the Jacob Blake thing first. You know, it's a terrible thing that happened. I don't even want to say negligence. It's like someone completely going against their training. I mean, and then like to shoot this person 7 times. I'm like, there has to be like, there's something behind that. There's got to be something else behind that to just like either something like personal or like, because how do you shoot somebody 7 times in the back
In
and
one
there
go.
not be anything else behind it? Like, and if your job as a police officer, if you're fearful, you don't need to be a police officer. Like, these are situations you're trained for. I do,
Ooh,
you know,
yeah.
feel.
I want to say something, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep on that. I guess, although that is an important thing. Uh, the city of Kenosha, Wisconsin, I think is, they're going through it right now, and I want to focus mainly on the NBA part of it. The boycott didn't last. It was one game, I think. They tried to talk about boycotting the season, but honestly, like as we can see, it didn't happen. They're still doing the playoffs and everything, and honestly, uh, this may be, excuse me, an unpopular opinion, but I don't think you should boycott games or the season. Like I don't think you should stop playing because of what's going on. I think the
Hmm.
important thing, like I think the problem would be is if you guys, went about this as if nothing was happening. If you didn't use your voice and your platform, to address the issues. But I don't think that means you should stop what you're doing. Like as like a sports player, you're an entertainer. Your job is to entertain the people, like whether you realize it directly or not. And I feel like entertainment is just as important in these times as, protesting and speaking up about the injustice that's going on. I think when you're not, like when you're choosing not to, do your job during this time, then we don't have many other outlets to go to for that. I mean, like, think of it like this. Like, let's look at this NBA situation right now. They're playing in the during the pandemic. They have Black Lives Matter on the court. A lot of players' jerseys have Black Lives Matter or other stuff that draw attention to it. Um, and while the ratings are probably the lowest they've ever been, um, straight up stopping would defeat the purpose of everything you guys put in place. Like, if you guys are just not going to do it, then you're not bringing awareness to what's going on. So, like, what
Hmm.
is the point of having Black Lives Matter everywhere? Having custom jerseys that say Black Lives Matter and the names of people who've died due to police brutality. What is the purpose of doing that and like kneeling and all that stuff if you're just going to say, "Oh, it happened again. We're going to stop." I think it's important to acknowledge that these things are happening and speak out about it, but I don't think your efforts should stop because of that. Like, you can do activism through sports. And that was the whole thing of Kaepernick. Kaepernick never said, "Yo, I'm not playing." Like, fuck it. No, he just said, like, "Hey, I'm going to kneel during this time to bring awareness towards police brutality and injustice throughout America." Like,
Hmm.
to just straight up stop defeats the purpose. Like, to straight up stop, you know, gives it's almost like they won. Like, to just be like, "Hey, you know what? This is going on, so I'm going to stop what I'm doing." Like, it gives the other side power. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Like when Ali, spoke out against like the war with Korea and stuff like, or Vietnam and stuff like that. He's just like, "Yo, I'm not, like, you can draft me if you want. I'm not going. I'm not fighting that." And he stood on that. And they took his title away from him, whatever. But you know, it's not like he's just like, "Oh, I'm never going to box again." Like, nah, my man eventually got back into boxing and did his thing. Like, I think, like, my point in that is that Ali didn't say he was going, if I remember correctly, he didn't say he was going to stop boxing. They stripped his title from him because he didn't do that.
Yeah, he didn't want to go he got called to draft. He said, I'm not going to kill people that are less fortunate as me and just to come back to a country that's not going to thank me anyway.
Exactly.
Continue to oppress me for it. Facts, which is facts. Which I think, because all right, I was with you. I at first when the season when they restarted the season, I was for it. I was for it happening. Kyrie, and then I don't know if we talked about it amongst ourselves, how Kyrie was against it, going back because we were just like, why are we going out to play? Like, why is our focus right now playing when there's a pandemic going around, this and that going, like all this going on around us? Why is playing our biggest concern, playing basketball? And I think and then we have the Jacob Blake shooting, and I think then and there when the NBA or the people in the NBA, LeBron included, Michael Jordan included, because I just peeped, he's now the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. I was like, I was not aware.
Oh yeah, it's been like that.
Yeah. So because those two individuals, MJ and LeBron, they played key roles in the negotiations uh, around the boycotting of the Lakers and the Clippers when they agreed to not only not show up for the Portland game, and not only not show up for that Portland game, but for the rest of the season. And it's like you said, they have the Black Lives Matter banner, the Black Lives Matter on the jersey, everything like that. But to your point, though, despite having all of these things around them, this man still gets shot in the back 7 times for something he wasn't even involved in. Can you imagine if he instead just did nothing? Jacob Blake, I'm referring to. Imagine if he just did nothing, drove by, let those 2 females or whatever scrap it out or whatever, let them do their thing, and he just mind his own business, did not try to be a helpful citizen or try to be a helpful person. He would not have got shot 7 times in the back. Is that the right thing he should have done? Every people could have their own opinion, but the fact of the matter is, he was better off not showing any type of goodwill. He would have been safer not showing any type of goodwill and just keep minding his own business, which is what we're used to. But that's the whole point. That's also the narrative. Is like keeping your head down is being like, nah, that's not my business. I'm gonna be no part of it. He made it his business and he paid the price for it. Luckily, he's alive, but he can't walk. Doesn't look like he could walk.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the games if stuff like that still happens? Like, what's the point of having them on the jerseys? What's the point of having BLM up on the ceilings, up on the streets, where where niggas still get shot 7 times in the back, just trying to be a good guy?
Well, so here's my counterpoint to that, right?
I just don't see. Well, I would just say, because in all of that, yeah, you could have all the BLM memorabilia around the court. You could have it around the bleachers. You could have it on the jerseys. You could have it on headbands. But that doesn't mean anything. It ends up just turning into merch when like niggas still get shot for nothing. So it's just like, okay, if this is actually not enough to get people to pay attention, we'll just take away certain teams, take away the basketball altogether. Screw that, because honestly, the NBA players, their contracts, they should still be getting paid no matter what. The only people that are really suffering is probably the association, the NBA themselves, the advertisers or the companies that probably paid for ad space during those games, which then shouldn't matter because those aren't lives that money could be made still, money could be replaced, but shoot, God forbid if Jacob Blake died. This would have been a whole different narrative.
Well, so think of it this way, right?
Yeah.
Um, the reason why I say keep playing is because, like, again, like the purpose of doing all that stuff is to raise awareness towards the cause and,
Right.
to spread that message. Now, they're not playing basketball to end police brutality because they can't do that. It's literally like, first of all, no one on that court or in that organization has the power to make change as far as the laws. Their local lawmakers and stuff like that do. The state governments, the local governments have the ability to make these changes that can affect police brutality. I'm like, what we, but the thing is, it's like they have to do their part in bringing awareness to it. Like LeBron can't just like shoot a 3-pointer and then suddenly like a law gets made where they crack down on police. You know what I mean? Like they have to use their platform in order to raise awareness. To get people or the people that have the power to make these changes to do it. Because like here's the thing: even the police in Kenosha don't wear body cams. So we would not know about this if it not for someone recording it with their phone. And like, people, you know, say I'm someone that doesn't pay attention to the news because I very much was prior to podcasting. I think our news is utter trash to keep it.
Oh yeah, no. Mainstream media is garbage.
But I'm not paying attention to it, but I'm a huge NBA fan. And the only thing I watch is like Sports Center and Undisputed or whatever. And then I see that they're boycotting about this, and I'm like, all right, well, who's Jacob Blake? And then I'm looking into it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like fucked up. But like, you know, for them to stop that does nothing. To silence yourself does nothing. Same thing with that Blackout Tuesday, where we're like, oh, we're not gonna use social media, we're not gonna do anything like that. I'm like, silencing the oppressed only makes their point. You know what I mean? The other side more powerful. So like, sure, like even
Yeah.
when Kyrie was like, all right, well, I don't think we should play. Well, what is Kyrie doing? Because as far as I understand, like he was in the bubble, wasn't he? Am I not mistaken? Was he just sitting on
Yeah.
the bench with the team?
Yeah. They were like all in the bubble. Well, yeah. Like, oh yeah, they were like all the players
So,
were
so
in the
if
bubble.
so, again, like I could be fact checked and I could be completely wrong. Well, if he was just sitting on the bench in the bubble, like what is the difference between you sitting on the bench in the bubble and you playing? Because you're there. The only thing you're doing is just not suiting up and shooting the ball. I'm like, if anything, like by being there and sitting there, you were like, there's no difference. It's not like you're like, all right, well, I'm not going to the bubble and I'm gonna go march like in Brooklyn, with the protesters, and I'm gonna go meet with lawmakers to see if we can get some kind of change around this. I'm like, and the honest truth about this is, a lot
Mm,
of players do not give a fuck because they're in the 1% where they're not affected by this. So it's like a lot of people are
yeah.
just like, yo, I don't care. And that's the honest truth. It's like it don't affect me. And we see it like even in corporate situations where like, yo, the people on the lower end, they keep talking about the issues they're having, and the higher ups are like to shake their head. They're like, whatever. Until it affects them, they don't care. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
all NBA players are like that, but there are a lot of them that are like that. And that's the honest truth of it. So like even like Tupac said like this, is like I may not be able to make the change in the world, but I want to, spark the mind that does. So even if they're readily able not to like, make these changes, maybe they spark the minds of like the politicians or other people of power, that can help make that change. But to sit here and be like, all right, we're gonna stop playing and not bring any awareness to it, like it's stupid. Like you're just
Okay.
silencing yourself.
All right. I see to that. I would say I agree what you're saying, but I would disagree with them not playing is silencing themselves, or yeah, them not playing is in the same effect as them silencing themselves when it came to when it comes to this with Jacob Blake. Because I think the fact of the matter is, like, homie was, like you said, he got clapped, and the top 1% of them, they could continue on and play like nothing even happened. But I think the fact of the matter is, they have to stop playing to better show the message or stand by their message, because it's harder to be like, this is important, this matters to me, and really get that across to people if, like, you saying this while putting up a layup or like scoring a three or just like, like just playing ball. Because I think what I think personally, what it stands for, what LeBron is saying, what Kyrie is saying, which I don't know if it was even for the fact of Jacob Blake, but even during the fact of the pandemic, is just like, basketball is great, but does basketball is it more, is playing ball worth more than standing up for somebody's life? They're saying no, especially stand by message. No. Is it worth more than our own lives? Like, putting our own lives, even in this bubble, going through which essentially them being sealed off in a closed space from like outside influence in the outside world, just so the fact that they could play ball, is that worth it? No, because like other sports too, like they're not, whether they want to or not, other sports, they're not going out of their way to like reopen or force, like put MLB players in a bubble. No one's trying to put MLB players in a bubble. It's just,
They should, but
that would be disgusting. I don't even know about that. That would
but
be disgusting. Like, where
but
would you put them?
but to that point though, right? And here's
Wait.
why.
I
Or you,
still
oh no,
before
no,
I
my fault.
forget.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, is yeah, because right, I say I just disagree on the fact that you could reach way more people not doing something that you're known to do than doing it and then standing there like while dribbling the ball, like, yo, real rap, what happened to Jacob Blake? That wasn't right. Um, I don't stand for it. Blah blah blah. It shows way more. It shows way more presence. It shows way more fucking, putting your, throwing your balls at the wall. That made no sense. I'm just, what's the word? Like, yeah, balls. Like, you just stand by what is it you actually stand for by not playing ball, then playing it. Because it's like, if this was important to you, it wasn't important enough to make you stop playing ball, to not stop you from collecting the check, which, by the way, they still collect the check. It's in their contract. I'm pretty sure, even from not playing, they still
Nah,
get their
a lot of people don't get guaranteed money, so a lot of
ooh,
players do need to play. NBA
ooh.
doesn't have guaranteed contract tracks, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, see, that's another thing that this quarantine is bringing to attention. I'm like, that's kind of wild that they're forced to, not saying they're basically forced to play to get their money, which is fine, but at the same time, like in this time of Corona, this time in the pandemic, and the time of just extreme police brutality, there is just more important things than ball. And this is coming from, we're getting this sentiment from other NBA players. You'd be like, yo, I know this is my life passion, but also what matters to me is almost just as important or more important is the fact that people that look like me don't get they don't get um stereotyped, which then could actually cost them their lives. And it's a message that we is pushing since the quarantine began, all with George Floyd. And it's still, even now, with all the protesting, there still seems to be a part of the message that just falls short on people's ears, or not actually, or we're just seeing it more and more. So we need more higher stakes of action to match the violence that is being shown, to get, like, to counter the message. Because to counter that act, like, dude, he got shot in the back 7 times. Like, that shows us, like, uh by not being armed, not having like bro, I like, fuck ball at that point. Like there's a bigger problem at stake. There's definitely a larger, bigger problem. And to even go in more detail about what's going on in Kenosha, Wisconsin,
Yeah, they're
like
rioting and shit.
yeah, they're rioting and shit. The 17-year-old who was strapped up, shot and killed two people, two protesters, and there was a big whole commotion around him. Like I
Yeah.
think it's just to it's not just the ball. It's around everything surrounding just it doesn't always just pertain just to ball. But the situation going around in Kenosha
Well,
is also the situation going around in other states in the country. And it's just like, yo, they really cannot. I think 2020 is the year, and despite all this craziness, is like, listen, I think we could go without playing a couple games of ball to put out change and bring enforce knowledge to people to make the changes for us. Because true, they may not be mean with the lawmakers, but the people watching, they're like, yo, where'd my basketball go? What? They're boycotting for what? This Jacob Blake? And then people know what happened, know why they can't watch their ball because of this Jacob Blake. People are upset. They're going to look up who Jacob Blake is. Like, oh, who's this dude? Who's this dude keeping me from my NBA ball? Damn.
well,
Only was shot in the back 7 times.
well, let's keep it in
Wow.
being. Like, this is the worst rated NBA season ever. And part of it is because of the pandemic. And another part of it is,
A lot of it is because of the pandemic.
I feel like other people just aren't super happy with the Black Lives Matter thing being shoved down their face. But at the same time, it's like, this is your platform. So, like, you have to use your platform to, raise awareness to what's going on. Like, imagine if you and I are a top-rated podcast, and we're like, you know what? Since Jacob Blake died, we're not podcasting. We're chilling. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, yo, we're silencing ourselves because the thing is,
we're
too.
a different platform, though. Like, our platform is.
But these niggas got a bigger platform than we do. And
Even
if we became as big as Joe Rogan, they have a bigger platform than what we would have, because like, yo, they're
we
constantly
operate differently.
well. So my point is, like, you know what, they play, they do interviews, pregame, postgame, all that kind of stuff, and like, how many of these niggas that boycotted were like, fuck it, I'm leaving the bubble and I'm going to go protest in Kenosha? Zero.
Well, we don't know that, but like,
I guarantee less than 1% of those people there left the bubble to go protest. And I'm
but
not
here's the
saying
thing
that to,
too.
and I'm not saying that to discredit anyone, but at the same time, it's like, all right, well, if we're not going to leave the bubble and all this stuff like that, like, you know what, like, sure, boycott a game, but the rest of the season is dumb. I mean, like, I just don't think it's a good idea. And like, they're going to finish the season. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, who cares, like, who wins, the NBA championship or whatever. The season's kind of shot already because of the pandemic. But
Right,
it's
then who
like,
cares then? And then why not boycott it? The rest of the season's shot anyway. So like, they're being forced to play and the season's already shot. They already got the lowest ratings and all this shit's going on, and they're like, yo, why are we even playing? Like, why are we even playing to begin with?
well,
Why does
I just
like,
feel like using your platform, albeit basketball, is better than just not playing. Because then, like, again,
you're trying to say the same thing, but I disagree. I think the message, we had the same message, but I would just disagree. They'll get the opposite effect by not playing, because the absence of ball will make people question, like, especially with ball coming back and ball disappearing again. I think that action, people's like, no more NBA again. Like, people are gonna be like, why is that? Like, people are gonna be more about
the
why
the
than
first
watching
time,
ball and being like, oh, BLM. Oh man, Jacob Blake, damn, that's really unfortunate. Oh shoot, you saw what LeBron just did to homeboy. He just scored 40 points, 10 rebounds, and like had 15 assists. Like, if you
it's the
ball,
pills
people
and the
are going to be
applesauce.
distracted by that. Like, playing ball, people are going to be distracted by that and miss the whole message. Like, you
Nah,
can't,
you
yeah,
can't miss it if
your
you're watching
average
ball right
Joe, your average Joe Schmo from Idaho, like, Joe is missing that
now. Nah,
message of Jacob
it's
Blake.
very
I'd rather
clear.
not ball and have Joe read
It's
than
all
ball.
the court. Like, it's the pills and the
He's
applesauce.
not looking at it though.
Yeah,
You can
he
put it
can't
all
miss it.
over.
It's
You
dead
still
set in the middle of the screen, nigga. Like,
you
short of
put
putting,
you could
short
put
of putting
BLM.
George Floyd's face in half court, like it's
You
everywhere
could do
else.
that. I'll tell you, you do that, and I will still. And you, if you put LeBron still on the screen, you put Kyrie, you put you put you freaking put Curry, Stephen Curry. Like, dog, it's like you put any of these type of players in front of that, people are gonna look at the player. People who, especially people who
Well,
love basketball, watch basketball, they're gonna look. They're gonna glaze over. They're not even gonna see. They're gonna be like, "Who was on the middle of the half court? Who?"
well, here's the
This is
thing
it.
too, right? So
You're
they
just gonna
took
watch
away
the game.
basketball because of the
You're just
pandemic.
gonna watch the
Sports
game.
stopped and everything, right? So sports stopped and everything because of the pandemic, coronavirus going on, and stuff like that. Cases are still going, and cases are getting
Yeah,
worse. Now, granted, it's still not 1% of the population of the United States, but people are still dying from this.
yeah.
So, like, nobody sat in
It's
that
not
pen,
crazy, crazy, but yeah, I guess you could
but
say it's
but
crazy.
no
Yeah.
one was like, "Oh snap!" Like, we got to really take this seriously because I can't watch LeBron posterize somebody. You know what I mean? And then like it's bad enough the media is telling people don't gather for like because of coronavirus unless it's to protest and it's okay. Like, like the fact that they're trying to capitalize off of our emotions is something completely different that I don't want to get
True,
into. But
true.
it's that's why my point is just like, yo, like, if you're gonna play, like play because you can maximize like your voice in that manner. Like, because honestly, like a lot of people don't care about these players if they're not playing.
And seeing that's the problem. That's in itself is the problem. Is the fact is just like as versus when you're whether you're a sports player or an entertainer, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be the best basketball player on the planet, like Michael Jordan, but like in the grand scheme of things, as we see now in the world we live in, it's just like okay, like if you really want to chop it up, like people like you know like you are professional, you are known for putting a ball, for taking a ball and putting it through a hoop. Like that's what that's is your profession. Like you're a professional enter you're still an entertainer. Despite the history of basketball and what it has, there's a lot of people, you're an entertainer. So that means you have little to no worth to people if you're not putting a ball through a basket. And I
Well,
know these people, they're like, I'm glad to be in the 1%, but I'll be damned if my worth is defined by my ability to put a ball through a basket. Like if it doesn't fall outside of that,
what that
fuck y'all.
they practice their whole life to get their worth based on how well they put a ball in the basket.
To be financially
in
secure,
that aspect,
to be
yeah. Like as
financially
far as like their
secure,
worth as a
yes.
human, then
As a human
they
being, that's
have
a
to.
different. That's a different.
Well, they have to do more now in the day of social media. Like
What just
they have to
into
be
what else to do
more.
more than to be like, I'm not playing the sport that you guys think is what I define myself by. Because the thing is like I may be nice at ball, but is that where I would stop and define myself? No. MJ was the best at his time, but then even after ball, MJ tried golf. He tried baseball because the fact is, he's like, maybe I should try to be the best in these sports too.
Well,
Because why limit myself? He's like, I'm more than. Because the thing is, why be like, why should I just like? That's the thing. It's like people say, oh, you're just good at ball, and it's like, nah,
well, the baseball
I'm
thing
good
is
at whatever I
because
put myself to.
after his father passed, he was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do basketball right now, and I always wanted to be a baseball player. So he was on like the minor league team for like the White Sox and stuff like that. So he did play baseball for like, I think a year or two, um, pretty much in honor of his father and stuff like that. But the
Okay, I
thing
got
about
you
MJ,
saying.
MJ's not a great example because MJ stayed completely out of politics.
Yes. In his day, there was no politics
Like there
to
were
be
players that were like,
political.
stood for something, but MJ was just like, nah. Like at the end of the day, Republicans buy Jordans too, and he stayed out of that shit.
He stayed out of that shit, yeah. And I mean, and because of that, now he's one of the owners. He's the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. So that
um,
that that does stand. But
yeah, I mean
um, Point is,
because
yeah,
I don't want to go too much on this because I guess there's no right way to do this. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
but
we both have valid points. Uh, There's no set in stone right way to go about, making a statement. I just feel like if they're going to play, maximize it. If they're not going to play, maximize that shit too. It's like, all right, if we boycott, what are we doing? Are we donating money to, causes in Kenosha? Are we donating money to Black Lives Matter? Are we marching? Or what are they doing if they're not going to play? And I felt like that part wasn't really fleshed out. So I'm like, if you're gonna play, maximize it. You know what I'm saying?
true. That's true, but I think just the action of not playing for that reason tells people where they stand. Like basketball is not worth more to me than like sending
Yeah,
out the message, like the
it's
right message.
it's definitely not more important than the fight against police brutality, but like, you know,
Or just is this yeah, is
but
that
how are they going to try to inspire some kind of change? And if that's why both
it
ways
falls on
can
the
work.
citizenships at that point though.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't
They
want to
did
go
their part.
again. Like, it's not like the NBA is in a concerted effort to be like, you know what, we're going to stop this and we're going to do X, Y, and Z to help against the fight of police brutality. Clearly, they're not because they're still playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The playoffs
Again,
is
this is
still
not
going.
all teams. This was just Lakers and the Clippers because LeBron was just
Well,
because yeah,
I think the
led by
NBA,
LeBron.
the NBA in general had a call, like with, you know, not all, but most of the players, GMs, stuff like that. And I mean, they weren't really happy with LeBron's like thoughts on everything. They were like, "Yo, this nigga's old. He don't know what he's talking about." but
Yeah.
but yeah, even still, they're playing now. So it's just like, all right, if y'all gonna play, like maximize your platform. If you're not gonna play, maximize the impact of that. Like, get on the streets, like, and protest with these people. Like donate money to these causes. Like speak with these local lawmakers and law enforcement to try to maximize change. But what we're not seeing is any of that. Even when like this was going on before the season, like you might have saw some players boycotting and stuff like that, but like none of them are really like the activism is just on Twitter, nigga.
That's true. And then it could be the J. Cole response, like activism without letting people know. Because it's just
Nah, but
because
you see Cole, even though he don't say nothing, they show Cole.
they,
You know what I
well,
mean?
see, they show Cole because other people show Cole. There's other
That's what I'm
people on
saying.
Twitter who see him and on the stuff they put Cole like, yo, you see Cole. I mean, it's not Cole himself, but like
No,
it's just the fact that Cole going in as an individual. Cole's like me because Cole going in that fashion, his vote and what he does is not. It doesn't equal out more than the person standing next to him. He's doing just as much as they are by just being there without using his platform, and it's like and that's what it is. Because unless they should meet with politicians and whatnot. That I'm not gonna say they shouldn't. I'm agree with you there to really try to put in more impact.
yeah,
But
and Pete, like these basketball players are way more valuable than the rapper nigga. Niggas don't care about rappers. But if LeBron was like, yo, I want to sit down with like, the local politicians of like Kenosha or something, or Tom Brady was like, hey, let me sit down and talk about this with these people, bro, they're gonna clear their schedules for these people. You know what I'm saying? They're
yeah,
gonna tell a restaurant that they said to close, like, hey, open up because I want like Tom Brady wants to have dinner with me. You know what I'm saying? Like they can make this change where it's like if J. Cole's like, hey, I want to talk to my local politician, they're gonna brush that nigga off.
yeah, they're gonna brush anything off, which is why he's trying to get into the NBA. Which is why he's like, yo, the player. This is the other. This is my final point. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
this
Can
might
we?
even
This
push
is
the
this is a long
argument.
point.
It is,
I,
but
I'll what I mean.
yo,
Go ahead,
but the
go ahead.
players make the league move though. That's what it is. It's just like, yo, I'm not. How am I gonna feel when like out in the world they're killing niggas that look like me,
Bro.
and then they're like, damn, that sucks about him. But you ready to play though? And I'm like, I mean, you could be like, yeah, sure, I guess, but like, it's just not the amount of serious consideration, like legit, that is not being put into these type of things. It is going on forever. It
I
feels like forever. It's just like, yo, niggas, shit got to change because they were doing what they were before. They were still playing. Niggas were still getting shot. So it's just
Well,
like if we go out to play, what is going to change? How about we stop playing? How about we say fuck it because like they make the league move anyway. The league only really will make money if they decide to play.
here's the thing, and I'll say this, and then we got to move on, right? There was a picture I saw on Facebook of all these entertainers, rappers that millions of dollars, like billions, if not trillions of dollars in one room. And it said, all this money in this room, not a single black owned bank, not a single independent town, like, or any of that kind of stuff. And the fact our impact, like, isn't going to be met so much because we don't control shit. Bro, in
No.
that picture, Diddy was there. He's the only person that he owns Revolt. That's his thing. But like everybody else is like rappers, like mad chains on and stuff like that, in this nice ass house, but no one's trying to build their own towns. No one's trying to put their own leagues together. Like niggas,
When we got
yo,
on the
we don't even
Spotify,
have our own tech. Like Hove owns Title, we laughed him out the building. We don't even support Title the way we should. Now, granted, Title's a little expensive, but
we gotta talk to Hove. We gotta talk to Hove because then yeah, because I'm trying to that's why I'm like, if you're trying to jump into actually, you're right. Let's jump into other let's just keep the ball rolling because it does bring points. This little will tie into Joe Budden and Spotify. This
well,
will tie
yeah,
into.
we can do that. But just really quick, like the reason why, like I disagree with the players make the league thing is because if all these players decide they don't want to do it, we have been conditioned that we like, especially like young black people, that they need to make it to the NBA or some kind of league to make money to, you know, to make a living for their family and make generational wealth. If we made our own leagues, it would be a different story. Boycotting the NBA would be something
Maybe that
more feasible
conversation does
because
need to come to the table. Why are we giving these niggas all our money if they don't really care about the things that matter to us, and yet we make them all that money?
exactly,
Maybe
because I guarantee a lot of players were like, "Yo, we need to boycott this," and then the owner is like, "You boycott, you're not getting paid
exactly.
because
Because
none of
then
you
you see
niggas have
people is
guaranteed
like,
contracts."
but see, and then it's a game of chicken. It's a game of chicken. Then you're like, oh, then you got
Bro,
people who's
it's
going to be
different.
scared,
These
like, I
niggas
don't
will
want to
still
lose
sell
my
your jersey.
contract.
They will still sell your likeness to these games, all that kind of stuff. People will still talk about the NBA, but we're not putting our money together and our resources to make our own. You know, we have
See,
the big
I don't
three.
even know that.
Ice Cream,
Imagine if
Ice,
people, everybody, a lot of
bro,
key
your likenesses still
players
get
pulled
sold, big
out.
dog.
No, a bunch of say LeBron, like LeBron, uh, uh, Steph Curry, fucking Kyrie, all these key noble players, they're like, oh, fuck the NBA, or like they literally just pulled out, and then like
They still own your likeness.
they did okay, they still do own your likeness, but then what if they're able to then either go under a new league or sign with another like then like just another league outside the NBA and then actually sign these players and then new players are going to be like because remember even the initiative not to go into just to even just wrap this up for the
Yeah,
NCAA.
then we'll transition into the Joe Budden thing.
Yeah, and just kind of like how you see how there's already a new shift going on in terms of, what your options are after college ball or like where like even or in within college ball, like you can finally get compensated. There are ways to get compensated playing college ball in ways that like, yo, if I don't make it to the NBA, that's fine because the time I invested, there's already a return on an investment because I got paid for college ball. So then I could still either focus on whatever I was focused on in school or go elsewhere or just still focus on basketball or still take that money and invest myself further. And then if there's other outlets besides the NBA, then look it. And that's
Yeah,
not,
I
and I'm
mean,
not even gonna pretend
did they do something like that for college ball yet? Because as far as I
one
know, they still
player
don't have it.
signed. There was a player that did sign on for that type of contract. Let me see.
Yeah, because if they're doing something like that, then that would be huge. Because then I mean, it helps players, give them options. Like if you're on contract for college ball, because like I mean, some of my people is like played ball in college and stuff like that. Some made the league, some didn't. But bro, you're getting by like you can't get a job. Like you may only be able to work for the school, and then even still, you're not making much money, bro. Like, and then you're already dealing with these. You coming from these low income families where they can't really help you, like with money for school and stuff like that. And like these teams, like these organizations, are making millions off your likeness, bro. Like it's really crazy, and that's why I'm
Yep,
like, yo, like,
Jalen Green's decision to join the G League instead.
oh, instead of playing for college,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
So
without going to because the NCAA pretty much funnels into the NBA. So then
yeah,
going for instead of going for the NCAA, which is also is an organization, which almost makes it every time we think about it, it's like, oh, that's automatic. But I mean, it's just an organization that all the other schools are a part of. So like you're kind of like, well, if I don't go part of this organization, what other options do you have? But now
yeah,
that
a
there's
lot
a
of people are
presence of
opting to go to the G League.
yeah,
I
just
think
by the
even
presence of that option
I think
is gonna
Lamelo.
change. It's gonna deter people. It's just that in itself gives people a perspective. It's gonna give the NBA a perspective because over time, more and more and more players over time is gonna go to the G League. It's not gonna be at the rate that people. There's still gonna be hundreds of people that are gonna want to go to the NBA. But then, just like with Jalen Green, there's gonna be more Jalen Greens in the future. There's gonna be even numerous. There's gonna be multiple of them over time.
Yeah,
That's gonna go to the G League over the NCAA, which then will affect how the NBA will turn out because because those connections it has to start somewhere. It doesn't. So if college ball is where it starts, shoot, change up how college ball is played, then the NBA is going to change up, and how sport politics is looked at then, because shoot, like I rather not open that can of worms because we have with NCAA ball and college players not getting paid to make these schools billions of dollars. But like once that you already saw how that narrative changed, and I think there's still more narratives to be changed for the NBA and how players really bring revenue to the league and how that relationship should be adjusted.
yeah. It goes. Well, let's transition into the Joe Budden thing. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it goes into the greater conversation of we don't own shit really.
Right.
So we're at the mercy of people that don't look like us, can't relate to us, or anything like that. They don't know what we came out of to get to even the point where we interact with them. So, even in the Joe Budden situation, he's not renewing with Spotify. He is looking for a different deal. And like he said he took less money than what he was offered, to get the statistics. And once, people started leaving or changing departments, he was unable to get, the data that he requested. That was the whole reason why he did the deal, to get the data. And then he started getting the data. And then, they asked for a vacation. They wouldn't let him get a vacation.
Well, get a
Uh,
vacation.
they offered to buy them watches. They picked out some watches. They were like, it's a little expensive.
They pick used watches of the watches they offered. They even
Fam.
went to the used. They're like, all right, no big deal. We'll pick the used version of those watches. Y'all said nah. And then they're like,
Yeah, I'm like, y'all making
yo.
millions off of our show when y'all can't give us like some watches?
Mind you, it was Spotify that offered to pay their watches.
Yeah,
By the
like it's
way.
not like they asked, yo, buy us watches. You know what I'm saying?
I know it's like if y'all ain't paying us, you better pay the rollie on my wrist. Nah, there was no conversation like that. Spotify's
Nah,
like, you know what, guys, you guys been doing great. Been doing great. Great. We're doing great. How about some watches?
yeah,
Y'all deserve a watch.
which y'all think we was gonna get like some fucking like regular Timexes or some shit? Or they were like, all right, let's buy them like, a couple $100 watches or something like nah, like
Fossils. They try to
y'all
get them some Citizen, some Fossil. I could get me a Fossil watch, but they're like, yo, pick a Fossil watch. B, stop that. They're like,
I wouldn't even want nothing like that unless it's custom. I'm like, sure, it could be like a Timex or something, but like, make it custom. Make it like one of one, where it's just like, all right, cool. It may not have like, it may not be a flooded out rollie, but it has some value because it's customized. But even still, like, they tried
I
to,
don't know,
they were
bro.
like, all right, forget it. Don't get us watches. Let us give that money away to our listeners. Nope.
Let's do something for our listeners, whether it's a giveaway, which is then could you use as a promo to get more listeners or to drive more traffic. So like basically this ties in into the same conversation that we were just talking about with the fact that we don't own shit. And Joe pretty much took like 2 hours to try to spell that out for people on his podcast. Just I don't know, man. I think people are getting more hip to understanding where we sit at, because even with ourselves, we kind of even hit a snag in time in terms of having that type of ownership over our own creativity, our intellectual property. Um, like where do you want to begin with this? Where do you want to unpack this?
I feel
Because
like
it's
we're
like two parts. Because this was first. Okay, how about we first? So Joe, was it like this week, last week?
last
Um,
week.
last week because he said he just does 2 episodes a week. So Joe Budden announces the end of the Joe Budden podcast with Spotify. I guess now they're on like four more episodes on Spotify until they bounce. For the same reasons we mentioned, they are not getting the recognition they deserve for their podcast on Spotify's platform. Like,
I think the thing
it's
with
insane.
them is that well, yeah, like their whole thing was like, yo, what is the point? Like, we're number one, but like we've already shattered the return on investment that you were expecting, and
They
like for
don't have
what? Like,
They
what are
don't have
we?
numbers.
Yeah, like what are we getting out of it? We're not getting the recognition. We can't see the numbers, and this is all stuff, the visibility that they asked for. Um, like it put a lot of people on Spotify, and like
Gave them crazy deals as well. Like,
so Spotify was like, yeah, we're gonna offer you a deal, but they wanted to own like everything they were doing. So like, they wanted a part of State of the Culture. They wanted a part of Joe's pull-ups. They wanted, anything else they did, they wanted to own that. Whereas people like Joe Rogan, they're like, all right, well, we'll pay 300 million to license it, which means Joe Rogan owns it, and he's
that is
licensing
the
it to them.
difference, the different conversations they're having, folks.
So then it's just kind of like Joe's like, all right, your number one podcast.
They don't want niggas to
You
own
want to
shit.
own
Let's just go in there, bro.
exactly. They don't want niggas to own shit, and that's the reality of it. So like, why are we giving so much power to these companies that don't value us? You know what I'm saying? It's like, sure, like I get we have to get a start somewhere, but at some point, niggas need to start really putting their money like towards our own. Like, Diddy got Revolt, but like Revolt's not even available everywhere.
Nope. And as you said, we Hove has title, but even Joe, but even it was funny because Joe mentioned it too on his podcast. He at title when he was offered a deal at title, he asked, "Can I have access to our numbers?" And they were like, "Nope, nope, nope." This said no. They said no.
Yeah,
Um,
and I mean that's the reality of it. You're gonna get that. Period. Like you don't have the leverage, unfortunately.
leverage ain't there. Leverage ain't there, and I
And
mean,
and the crazy thing is, like to keep it a beam, um, they they would have had some statistics or whatever, if they were uploading. I think they were uploading through like SoundCloud and then pushing it everywhere else per se. Nigga, I mean, we may not have like super in depth stats, but we have some damn good stats just through Anchor. You know what I'm saying? And Anchor is owned by Spotify. That's the fucked up part. Now, granted, they may not be able to see who all is using like the promo code Joe to sign on and stuff like that, but to not
Oh,
even
they
get
can. Oh, they could see that. They
well,
even
nah, they're
they bullshitted him for it
well,
about
no,
that info.
not that they're like. I'm saying like Joe is not able to see that because they're not giving him that. But
Yeah,
like
but the story around that too.
yeah, it's dumb. It's like they'll do whatever they can to like sabotage the black man, but let Joe Rogan be like, all right, well let me check these stats. They'll give Joe Rogan that stuff.
And I think it's important that we as a people recognize that. Um, like I said, because Joe took a length. He took at length to talk about it, just to say the same thing in different ways, so that he doesn't, I guess, ruffle people's feathers. Because Joe has a way of like having people feel a certain type of way about him, the way he says things, the way he acts. Um, and he doesn't care, right? Like he doesn't care. But the thing is, the knowledge that he really is kicking, the things that what he is trying to do and attempt is it's not something that should be looked over by anyone, whether you like him or not, because what he's actually doing is he's trying to give more power and leverage to the creator, more so than that's been done before in, say, music. Because I like when he was talking, a lot of what he was tipsy, he was making a lot of references to the music industry, because Spotify, he's like, you're not a podcast streaming service, you're a music streaming service. And podcast is something they themselves try to get into the race, like what, 2 years ago, a couple years ago, through Joe, and made like leaps and bounds in terms of data and just money, just revenue. And at the end of the day, they're not willing to give him shit compared to other brands. Like, what does that tell you? Gee, it kind of tells me Spotify is just using them to get the information they want to push the podcast that they want to support. They don't want to support him. They want to use him enough to get the information they need to replicate what you have, what makes it work. And that is in itself what's been happening, say, in music, say, in everything else when it comes to Black creators. Like, geez, I don't know how else to what else to even put it to that,
Yeah, I mean
because
that's the truth of it all. It's like with everything going on in the political climate, you have to understand is that niggas are still niggas, and we're still valued as less than our white counterparts. Um, you know what I mean? Like it's deeper than Joe's struggle when we think about it. Like, look at most
a
jobs.
lot
Most
deeper.
jobs now have people in charge of diversity and inclusion and stuff like that. The majority of these people are just black people. Like they have like chairman roles just for diversity. What the fuck is diversity? You know what I'm saying? Like we put these people in power, vice president of diversity, they still have to report to someone white above them. And it's almost like a tokenism role. Like,
You're the president of tokens for
yeah,
our
and
company.
and I hate to say it, but it's just like that doesn't
Fuck
mean
that.
shit in the grand scheme of things. It's like, oh,
It
diversity.
doesn't.
This goes into what I said earlier about the NBA, where it's just like, yo, like you'll have all these people of color at the bottom complaining about something that impacts their ability to work, and then these white people that are above them will look at them like it's less than them because they make more or they have a higher title, and so because it doesn't affect them, change doesn't get done.
And yet again, though, they won't be making the money and the revenue streams they would be receiving if not for those players, not for like, because we see NBA, like not to bring them back to the NBA, like we see NBA players as like, to some they're heroes, like to make it in the league, to go play, win championships. But to like the team owners and to the ones cutting the checks, that's still employees. They only see them as employees to them. And I think that's that relationship hasn't changed, y'all. We will always be seen as lesser than, because like how we were started out in this country, depending on what version of history you all want to look at it from, uh, the very contact, the very relationship that was made from the get-go was, I am going to fucking catch a come up off of you, whether you like it or not. Like, at the cost of you, yeah, I'm gonna find myself a come up where at the cost of you as an individual, whether it's you as an individual. So y'all gotta realize what you offering is worth way more to them than you yourself as an individual. And that's what it really was that got to Joe. He was like, the point was Spotify was, they were trying to take the fruit without contributing to the soil, without contributing to what makes his podcast great, what it does for the culture, what it represents for the culture. Spotify doesn't care about that. Spotify just wants the bag. They want to understand, how is it he has all these followers, how he has all these people to tune in and listen to him for 2 hours straight. That's what it is they want to figure out. That's all they care about. They don't care about what it is that Joe's trying to do. You need to care about what Joe's trying to do as a creator, because Spotify doesn't. Right? We need to just create our own brands, our own platforms, our own everything. Because why continuously go to the same people that obviously is not going to care about it the same way we do? That's not going to offer us monetary value that we see fit. Like, we could just take this shit and just do it ourselves, because one, attention will translate into revenue. We could then just, whether it's going to be a struggle, I say, to do in the beginning, but we could just do this shit ourselves.
You know what it's going to take?
Just do it ourselves, bro.
It's going to take a lot of patience, and a patience that this generation just doesn't have.
I say patience we never really learned to have.
This
as a people
learned to have. Our ancestors did. This is how, civil rights and stuff happened, because these people saw it as, hey, you know what, we want our rights and to be respected as like equals, but we need our children and our children's children to have that same respect that we're fighting for. So the fight has to be selfless. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we need to all focus our efforts into building up one and then building others and to look at it like, hey, we're not in competition, we're in cooperation. You know what I mean? Like, just like I was saying, like off air about the Twitch shit, where it's just like, yo, we need to work together, build one, and you open that door for everybody else to get through. And it has to be without ego. You know what I mean? It has to be completely selfless and knowing that this fight is going to go on for years before we start to build that kind of stuff. Instead of like fucking clowning people that are doing things like, oh, people clown Diddy because Revolt isn't as big as the other major networks. But with the support and stuff like that, we can help it get there. People clowned Hove because Tidal wasn't as big as the other one. With support, it can get there. Ice Cube's Big Three, same thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're so quick to judge and to like, clown people for their efforts rather than really supporting them and seeing that change. It's with that mentality we're never get anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, in the the negative stuff is a bigger platform than the positive. Like, imagine like back then if the negativity was more prevalent than the positivity. Like, niggas would still probably be slaves. niggas would still have no rights. Like there'd still be a colored
No.
bathroom.
Yeah.
There was niggas that absolutely were like, yo, like shit ain't never gonna change. Fuck that. Like you look stupid protesting and stuff like
No
that.
protest. Yeah. Which is
But
still
then
what
look
we
what
have
happened.
today.
Like we need to learn from our ancestors and see, like, hey, you know what? They fought for the ability, to um for us to even have these things, and we need to fight like that for the future generations. Like,
Together.
and that's
Keyword together.
and that's Joe's point.
I
I
think the
think
big thing is it definitely has to be together.
like Joe has been like a pioneer for a lot of stuff. Like he was doing the live streaming thing before a lot of people were doing it. He was doing the podcast thing before a lot of people were doing it. And his fight is for the future of this industry, the future of black creatives. It's like people are going to clown him. They're going to say whatever they want because they see it as just him. But like as someone that's in it and fighting to do this, I see the bigger play and I support it. Like, I got Spotify because of Joe. I support what Joe is doing. If Joe decides, hey, I'm getting up and I'm going to Tidal, I'll go to Tidal. Fuck it.
Yeah. Same. I
Because I
thought about
support
that.
so much of what he does. I don't
What
listen to
does
other
Spotify really
podcasts.
offer? Yeah, just even not even that, but like, is even looking like because the way Spotify is operating, the way they were treating him, because he like how Joe, just to bring it back to the whole issue for those uh, who are interested in the story, like Joe, like Joe brought a lot of people to Spotify to their platform, and he was giving this a little bit of the details of where Spotify was at that time. And if you recall too, yeah, I wasn't even paying for Spotify then when he was back in like 2 years ago. I wasn't paying for Spotify premium. Like there was because Spotify didn't have much to offer. It was just streaming. It was just streaming off their app. What their app did do though was it did nip the bud on pirating music. That's where it initially what they were strong for. But back then, that's they weren't really like compared to like Apple iTunes or like Apple Music. Um, just like what do we have? We had like Pandora, iHeartRadio, like other streaming platforms. Spotify was like, like whatever. And like now, just to see the way like how much they're worth, how much like their value has gone up. Joe Rogan, when Joe Rogan did the announcement that he signed, their stocks shot through the roof. Like their stocks were just shooting up off of shit like that. So Joe made a good point where he's like looking at Spotify now and how they grew, but how they responded to their growth. Like they became this like other like vampiric companies, like other labels and other companies, streaming companies in the business. Like they just came to suck the life out of the community, out of the creative pool. That's all they're really here for to do. They're not here to expand or help you grow or help the culture grow as black creatives or just as creatives in general. They ain't here for that. They're here to make a buck. And they're gonna suck you dry, pause. They're gonna suck you dry to make that buck. That's what Joe was saying. And I
Yeah,
think
and
we need to come out of that together because between you want to get into the what followed after between Joe and Charlemagne over the Breakfast Club remarks, and he's like, "Yo, don't make a white person nine figures when they will only offer you jewelry, bruh."
yeah, and that's why I'm just like we have to figure out our own. Like, again, you have to play a bit of the game to get a start, but then at some point you can step out of the game and do your own. Like even with us, like we want to be able to sell IPs, but ultimately we're trying to build a network. So like we may sell an IP or two to some other people and figure that kind of stuff out, but at the end of the day, we're not trying to be solely dependent on them. Like we're trying to be our own network where we create these things and then we license this stuff to other people. But when we sell, you know, our intellectual properties and stuff like that, you know, and don't have the leverage, you know, they dictate how much they're going to pay us. And even like with the Master P thing, I don't know if you've been watching like the No Limit Chronicles. It's been on BET. I've been seeing it online. He was like, "Yo, I got offered, you know, I think like $1 million from this label, and I turned it down." And he was like, "Yo, like, I think it was like his cousin or something was like, damn, man, we should have took that deal, blah blah blah." And Master P was like, "If they offered me $1 million, imagine how much I'm really worth."
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
If
Bro,
he'd have took that $1 million, bro, it would not be the same Master P.
fraction, bro. He was a fraction. It was worth because real rap, they only offered like a lot of companies, they will only offer you a fraction of what
They'll
you're actually
lowball you.
worth. I mean, that's just the way to go. Like that's just how the business is. They're gonna
Yeah,
lowball you.
and
That's just
sometimes
bargaining. Period.
you have to take that, you know, to like to Joe's point. It's like he's like he knew he was getting less than he was offered other places, but you know, the promise of getting the data that he needed was the far more important thing to him.
Very far, because he had to know what he was actually worth. He had to be like, if we're the number one podcast on your streaming platform, what does that mean metrics wise? How far is number two from us? Like because I think too far. What happens nowadays too many times, you know, people have these golden ideas or come up with these IPs only to just freely just give them away, give them away to other companies, to other publishers, to other distributors, because it's just like the DSP shouldn't be calling all the shots. They're just the place where the platform exists, like where it lives, where people can find it. That's all they really serve in the whole um the process of it all. Because it man, actually, yeah. Now, let me take it back to what I said with Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club, because I did say this and I didn't really go into this in detail. Because going back into that, the fact that we have people internally fighting each other, like you said, if things were more negative than positive back then, we would still be slaves. But look at now, like Charlemagne came at Joe, um, on the Breakfast Club, like earlier this week, about Joe leaving Spotify, and like even it is, and then there's other stuff with Tahir, with those allegations and
Oh,
stuff
Tahiri.
happening. Yeah, Tahiri. I'm not gonna get into that, but it's just Joe's comeback at Charlemagne. He was just like, "Yo, what I'm trying to do is like we're really going about the same thing, but we're going about it way differently." And I think that's fine. But like, what's important is not recognizing what someone else is doing and not trying to bash them for it. Like, yeah, like it's just like why are we always gotta be in competition with one another? It's just like, and also just with the disrespect or the clowning, like, so what if Hove has title and no one's on title? Do you have your own streaming platform? What's the other black owned streaming platform?
I'm like, yeah. That's why I don't listen to when niggas say stuff like that. I'm like, yo, niggas will have something to say, but not even
Grabbing the bucket.
won't have $1,000 to their name. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And then you clowning the man that's putting his money into something. You know what I mean? Like,
and you are putting money into a brand that only sees you as a bank account that they could try to just drain until you got nothing left. And then
yeah,
when you
like,
got nothing left, they don't give a shit about you.
yo, niggas will clown you for trying to do music. For like, niggas have said their things about us doing this podcasting stuff, but I'm like, bro, like, you are
Oh
not
yeah.
making enough money for a living, and you were going to work at these companies for the rest of your life. And when you eventually retire at 70, if you can, like, what are you gonna have to show for it?
Nothing. Where you gonna
Fucking
give to your
nothing.
kids? Where you got to give to your kids? Where you got to give to your fam? Where you got to pass down to give the culture to people who fucks with you, look like you, period, or people that like who walk the same path and vision as you. You're gonna have nothing for those individuals besides your saltiness. And I'm like, and I'm like, I don't like, I could go in and rash those individuals, but what does that do? What does that do for them? What does that do for me? That does nothing for us. That does nothing for what we're trying to do. And that's what it ties into Joe, because he went in on Charlemagne, and I was like, God damn, he went in that nigga's life.
Nah,
Real rap about him,
but
iHeartRadio, that nigga not owning anything. He's like, what do you own? Like, you're
no,
an
and
employee.
niggas niggas clown Dame Dash for years when he went on the
Years.
Breakfast Club and told niggas straight up. But Dame Dash owns all his shit. He has a streaming service. He has his own like studios. He has a label. He has all this other stuff like that. He has his own like, movie company or whatever.
That's for him, by him.
And niggas clowned him up and down when he went on there. It's like, yo, y'all don't own any of this shit. You can't give this to your children.
You can't, and y'all can't act. And
The best these niggas
really
can do is like,
in,
hey, this is my son. He wants to get into this, but none of these niggas have control to be like,
and they'll
hey,
be like, "That's cute," and they're like, "Hey, there, little guy. Like, you ready to work for me for however, like, you ready to make a living
the
based on
people who
however I
own
say you're
iHeart
worth?"
will put their children in place to run iHeart.
Yeah. And Charlemagne's, if
The people who
no
host
shade, but
the Breakfast Club have no say in who takes over the Breakfast Club when they leave.
yeah,
If Charlemagne doesn't sign again, he can't be like, all right, well, I don't want to sign again, but yo, you guys should definitely take on Jesus and Mero. They're like, fuck you. We're putting who we want in there.
put who we want in there, and then whether it lives or dies, or Breakfast Club lives or dies, that's not for you to say. And then you're gonna feel a type of way. You're like, yo, I put years of my life into this, and you're not gonna
God,
treat it the way treated this way. And it's
I
just
mean,
like, yeah, you don't
you're in
own it.
Radio Hall of Fame, but it's just like, it's the Ryan Leslie thing. Like, Ryan Leslie
Oh, the
is
plaque on
completely
the
independent.
wall. Damn, yo, the joke is. Oh, not my bad. I think it goes. I was bring when you mentioned him being in the Hall of Fame. It's the
Yeah.
plaque on the wall. It's just like who the fuck who gives a fuck about a plaque on the wall? Like the billboards, top 100. Who cares about these lists and plaques? And like those don't mean shit. The value in those was created by the people that cut your checks. There's really no value in those things. Like we're chasing lists.
Yeah, we're letting other people dictate our value.
Yeah.
And look at the Ryan Leslie thing, right? Ryan
Yeah,
Leslie, as of
back to
recent,
that.
is getting more attention because he's been doing the independent thing on his own for years. But I remember like 10 years ago, he was talking about this. And he was doing it. And now, because the
Crazy.
independent fight is so, like, this nigga's literally the Kaepernick of music.
The Kaepernick of music. That's crazy.
I shit you not. You can
That's
look
the
back
hardest battle to fight.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago and see that he's been doing this that long.
I'm happy for Joe for leading the way for podcasting because he came from music. Because he's seen what happened in music. He said himself, he's like, I seen what happened in music. That's why I want to move. It's the fact is, if you're trying to like changing music right now is gonna take like 10 Joes.
No, but like to the point of like Ryan.
The fact
Leslie,
is, this
right?
nigga is just doing it like for putting that message on himself.
So
I gotta applaud him. I gotta applaud him. No, real rap. He deserves some applause.
And with the Ryan Leslie thing, before we end the show and stuff like that, because we went on this shit way longer than I thought.
Oh yeah, sure. Welcome to the podcast.
But it was necessary.
Very necessary.
Ryan Leslie for years, if not a decade, was doing this shit independent. He found his way to get everything going. Niggas are stealing his shit, but he is making mad money. He may not chart on Billboard like, some of our larger acts, but he's making more than many of these acts independent, quietly. And it's like,
Bro.
What do you want? Like, we're conditioned to go through this system to take a certain amount to be in these shitty deals. Meanwhile, Ryan Leslie is doing it all on his own, making more. He may sell 10,000 copies, but he's making more than the person that's selling millions because all those hands that are in their money. And niggas are scared to go independent.
And they should just go
Russ
independent.
talks about the same thing.
Oh, Russ! I watched the clip about Russ. He went through a year, basically, of where his earnings on per month from, like, I think this was like SoundCloud when he was like independent.
No, TuneCore.
Was it TuneCore? Oh, yeah. See, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's making bread.
He's making bread. He
granted, Russ had a little bit more privilege than some of us do, but
yeah.
But the point is, though, it's like his point is not moot because of it. You know what I'm saying? He may have a bit of advantage over the normal artist, but his point still stands. Like, niggas can do this independent. They just don't want to, bro.
They just don't want to. Chance was trying to be the first, like, he was trying to be the poster boy for it. Spotify fucked him up too.
Yeah.
I was watching some shit on that. It was like, it was like a YouTuber.
Hello, Yassine.
Yep, Hello Yassine. Yeah.
Shout out to him, man.
Yeah, no, real rap. He has some dope ass videos and content. But just to keep it the ball rolling, since we are trying to wrap up, he had a video about how Spotify fucked it up for Chance too, and it relates to this message because Chance was trying to push the independent the music artist type of lifestyles, like, yo, just make a team and, like, you know, just run with your team, just take your time, build your team, and then build your brand, and then shit, like, you know, yeah, you might be in the red, but like you don't have to depend on these labels. Like, you won't have to depend on Spotify to get your music out to your fans, and you don't have to deal with Spotify, Apple Music, any of these other streaming platforms cannibalizing your fans with ads and, like, freaking ad placements and whatever that they can do because of the platform that they're forced to go through to get to you as the artist. And shit, like, bro, someone's got to give. Like, it's tough. Like, it's hard. You can't have one or two people put out this, try to be an example of the lifestyle, and especially to go through roadblocks and say, even if they don't succeed along the way and fail, we still can't have one or two. Like, we need more of these niggas, bro. We need more Joes. We need more chances. I see what I did there. More chances. If you like what you hear, you know who we are. FloorSeats Media.
Nah, but
I got puns all day.
I think that's a good place to wrap up for today.
You would cut me off after I made a pun. You planned this out.
Nah. But give some quick updates on our end. We are looking into live streaming the episodes soon. Via Twitch, maybe also co-stream on YouTube. We can see about that as well.
Yep.
So twitch.tv/FloorSeats Media. Follow us there. Of course, follow us everywhere else at FloorSeats Media. And we got some stuff we're working on too. We will keep you guys posted. But definitely follow us there to be on top of everything. Zan, you got anything you want to add?
I always got something to add. You know me. Quotes from Zan. Life is about taking your time to hit all the right notes. On some Ray Charles shit right there. Like the quote says, and like we were like this, pretty much this whole episode is about. It's about the journey. It's not about getting to where you want to be. It's just getting there the right way. And I think through the creatives that we have in this life, and hopefully in the future to come, this message holds true and stays true, or else creativity will always be at the behest of those who don't even understand it. and
Yeah,
they're gonna control and they're gonna just control all that shit. I'd rather not.
yeah. To wrap that one too, I was watching a couple YouTube videos and I saw a comment, uh, which kind of hit me. Not super religious or anything, but this kind of holds true regardless. And it says in the Bible, Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." It's the very first line of it. Um, that is so true even to this day, especially when we talk about, the black struggle and stuff like that. And definitely, do your research on stuff, understand what's going on, even if you're, not a creative and you're just like a regular worker, like, understand your position and where you are. If you're working at a company, it's like, all right, cool. Like, take a good look at where you are in that company. Think about where you want to go, maybe. Think about how that's going to benefit you because we, especially as black people, are constantly getting screwed over because we don't know. Our ignorance, people take advantage of our ignorance, and we're not taught any better. Um, that's just what I want to end it with.
Yep. We can't afford to be ignorant no longer.
Facts, especially as a black man in America
Real rap.
or a black person of color.
Black period. Just black. It's the color black. Even the black Crayola crayon can't even afford to be black.
But we will see you guys
Shit.
next week. Same time, same place. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys stay safe out there. And we'll see you guys. We out.
Be easy, y'all. Peace.